Projected votes cannot be taken into account when calculating whether a presidential candidate attained 50% plus one of the votes cast in accordance with Article 138(4) of the Constitution. Similarly, in the same Raila 2013 case, the court further laid down the parameters of burden and standard of proof in electoral disputes. More specifically, the burden and standard of proof required in disputes challenging the outcome of a presidential election. And this is what the court said, I quote, in the case of data-specific electoral requirements, such as those specified in Article 138(4) of the Constitution, for an outright win in the presidential election, the party bearing the legal burden of proof must discharge it beyond any reasonable doubt. The question that follows was whether the petitioners challenging the attainment of 50% plus one constitutional threshold and the computation by the sixth petitioner in general met the standard of proof settled by this court in Raila 2013 case. The premise of the sixth petitioner's percentage computation was a press briefing made by the chairperson of IEBC on 10th August 2022, when the evidential burden shifted to IEBC and its chairperson, as it does in election cases. They produced video evidence correcting the percentage voter turnout to read 64.6 at the time of the briefing. This percentage, however, did not include reports from all the Kim's kit and 86,889 voters who were identified manually using the printed register of voters. In our view, the assertion by the sixth petitioner that the percentage voter turnout was firstly predicated on the uncorrected percentage given by the chairperson of IEBC was negated by evidence adduced to prove the correction. Secondly, the sixth petitioner based his percentage of voter turnout on the total number of his registered voters, while the chairperson of IEBC made reference in the press briefing to the number of registered voters who were identified through the Kim's kit progressively. The sixth petitioner also asserted that rounding off of votes cast in a presidential election as a means of assessing the threshold under Article 138(4) of the Constitution kills and bars voters, which is illegal and unconstitutional. We have deliberated on this proposition and found that it is not mathematically sound and that the rounding off done by IEBC and its chairperson was correct. Consequently, we find that the petitioners did not provide a watertight case to warrant the setting aside of the results of the presidential election on the basis of not having met the threshold provided under Article 138(4)(a) of the Constitution. On the voter turnout, therefore, we find that the formula predicated on the number of voters identified through Kim's kit progressively and used by IEBC and the chairperson to generate a percentage of 64.76% was correct. Having settled the issue of voter turnout, we must ask ourselves whether in the making of the declaration, the chairperson of IEBC applied the formula in Article 138(4) of the Constitution, which is total votes cast less rejected votes divided by 2 must always give 50% plus one vote. Given the numbers that were presented to us by IEBC and the chairperson, this will translate to 14,213,137 divided by 2 plus 1 which makes 7.106,569. The question that must inevitably follow is whether this formula, when applied, will confirm that 7,106,569 votes is less than 7.176,141, which represents the number of votes received by the first respondent. We find that it is, as such, on the basis of the foregoing formula and from the numbers provided by IEBC and its chairperson and the declaration by the chairperson of the president-elect on 15th August 2022, it is our finding that the declared president-elect attained 50% plus 1 of all the votes cast in accordance with Article 138(4) of the Constitution. Issue number 8, on whether there were irregularities and illegalities of such magnitude as to affect the final result of the presidential election. Although the petitioners have provided numerous averments pointing to possible irregularities and illegalities marked by failure of technology, arranged voter suppression, printing and utilization of Book 2 of 2, EU preparation by the IEBC and its chairperson, commission indiscretions, transposition anomalies, agent absence, and many others, we are of the view that the pointed illegalities and irregularities were not of such magnitude as to affect the final result of the presidential election. We will delve deeper into the details of this issue in our recent judgments. Last issue, what reliefs and orders can the court grant? Under Article 163(3) of the Constitution, it is provided that the Supreme Court will have A. Exclusive original jurisdiction to hear and determine disputes relating to the election of the office of the President arising under Article 140. And Article 140 provides, I quote, a person may file a petition in the Supreme Court to challenge the election of the President-elect within 7 days after the days of the declaration of the results of the presidential election. 2. Within 14 days after the filing of a petition under Clause 1, the Supreme Court shall hear and determine the petition, and its decision shall be final. If the Supreme Court determines the election of the President-elect to be invalid, a fresh election shall be held within 60 days after the determination. In exercising its jurisdiction pursuant to these provisions, the court sits as an election court with a mandate to determine the validity or otherwise of the election of the President-elect. It is clear to us that the jurisdiction of the court is quite circumscribed in terms of the orders or reliefs it can grant following the hearing and determination